So welcome to this evening where we're going to look at Parashat Ekev. Ekev means heel. It comes from the word, not that it comes from the name Jacob, Yaakov, comes from Ekev, heel. As I was reading it, I was getting again so excited. Okay, here, I'm having trouble sharing the screen. Here we go. It begins in Deuteronomy chapter 12, 7 verse 12. Now, I want you to feel free. If I read anything, we'll let other people read tonight as well, but if we read anything and you feel you'd like to interrupt because an idea comes to you or some way that you relate to it, to your own lives or to the world today, because the Torah is for us for today. It's how we live our lives today. It's not meant just for that time. And it begins here. It goes from Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12 till Deuteronomy 11:25. And we begin. And it will be because you will heed these ordinances, which are mishpatim, and keep them and perform, that the Lord your God will keep for you the covenant and the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. So God made a covenant with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And it says, and he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your soil, your grain, your wine, your oil, the offspring of your cattle, the choice of your flocks in the land which he swore to your forefathers to give you. So when we see this, not only is he speaking to that generation where they're going to go into the land and all these things will happen, he's also speaking to us that when we keep the commandments, we can know that he loves us, he's blessing us, he's multiplying us, and he blesses the work of our hands. And it says, you shall be blessed above all peoples. This is interesting. There will be no sterile male or barren female among you or among your flock. Imagine that. And the Lord will remove from you all illness, all of the evil diseases of Egypt which you knew, he will not set upon you, but he will lay them upon all your enemies. Imagine if we were only obedient to our God. It doesn't mean we need to be perfect, but he knows the intentions of our heart. We wouldn't be sick. Can you imagine that? And you shall destroy, consume all the nations which the Lord your God is giving to you. You will not spare them, nor shall you worship their gods, for that will be a snare for you. Will you say to yourselves, these nations are more numerous than I? How will I be able to drive them out? You shall not fear them. You shall remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. You see how often he refers back to the story of Pesach, the story of Egypt, over and over throughout our history. We can always go back and remember. He says, remember the great trials that you saw, that your eyes saw, the signs, the wonders, the mighty hand and the outstretched arms with which the Lord your God brought you out. So will the Lord your God do to all the peoples you fear. So no matter where we are, now Israel has enemies all around. And we saw that recently with all the bombs that are hitting Israel. But God tells us not to be afraid, just to be obedient to him. Also, that Tzira, the Lord your God, will incite against them until the survivors and those who hide from you will perish. Now, I just want to see something here, what this is. Hold on a second. Let me go to this chapter here. 7, Deuteronomy 7. What was that verse? Let's see, 7:20. Where is it? Where am I here? Sorry, I should have looked up that word before. This is Deuteronomy 1, 7, verse 20. Oh, moreover, the Lord thy God will send the hornet among them, until they that are left and they that hide themselves perish from before thee. So that's the hornet. It's like anything that stings, the enemy. Also the hornet, the Lord your God will incite against them until the survivors and those who hide from you perish. You shall not be terrified of them, for the Lord your God, who is in your midst, is a great and awesome God. Whenever we have fear, whenever we feel that there's things that are just too hard for us, how often do we say, I won't be afraid because the Lord my God is great and awesome? He is. We need to remember that. And the Lord your God will drive out those nations from before you little by little. This is interesting. You will not be able to destroy them quickly, lest the beasts of the field outnumber you. But the Lord your God will deliver them to you, and he will confound them with great confusion until they are destroyed. So it's like when we have a lot of problems, things that we feel we can't handle, God doesn't just come in and solve them all for us. Little by little, he gives us the skill, he gives us the courage, he gives us the desire and the willingness to handle them, so that little by little we can grow and not be afraid to handle the problems that life is going to bring to us. He will deliver their kings into your hands, and you will destroy their name from beneath the heavens. No man will be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. This is what happened when King Solomon was king. King David had gone in and destroyed all his enemies and made pacts with the nations around. And it wasn't until King Solomon married foreign women and allowed their gods into Israel did our people fall, and the nations around took over. The graven images of their gods you will burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or gold that is upon them, and take it for yourself, lest you be ensnared by it, for it is an abomination to the Lord your God. Nor shall you bring an abomination into your house, lest you are to be destroyed like it, but you shall utterly detest it. You shall utterly abhor it, for it is to be destroyed. You know, when I read this, I was wondering, because I remember my parents were not religious in any way. As a matter of fact, my father was an atheist, maybe an agnostic. My mother was not raised religious. And I remember coming into our house and seeing a Buddha on her dresser, a little Buddha. And they didn't have a mezuzah on their door. They had a horseshoe, believe it or not. These are pagan symbols. And it says, these images you are not to bring into your home. Now, obviously if someone gives you a little gift and something you're not worshiping, big deal, it's only a thing, it doesn't matter. It's always the intention of the heart that matters.
I have a horseshoe here. It comes from my father's farm.
Yeah, but you don't worship it. You don't say,
oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you say if something happens to it, you're going to have bad luck.
No.
Because people believe that a horseshoe brings good luck.
Well, it's not even for the good luck that it's here.
Exactly. It's a memory. That's very different. Now, this is
What's
chapter.
what's interesting is like before when it says, if you obey my statutes, etc., you won't be barren, you'll have crops and this and that. And when you think of it, it sounds like, well, everything will be good. But in a way, it's like things have gone bad in the whole world because if we were obedient to, God chose us as a people, we would have gone to the other nations and told them, and they in turn would be obedient. If they would be obedient, that's when maybe the world would be a totally different place from what we can imagine. So it's not
Exactly.
just, could be looked at so simply, oh, if you just do this, you won't be barren, you won't be. But there's a whole cascade of events that happen if Israel was obedient. Because if we were obedient, our influence in the world would have even been greater in terms of idolatry in the other nations. So it's a whole
Exactly.
thing happening.
Exactly. It's the same if Adam had been obedient, Adam and Eve, we would still be in Gan Eden, in the Garden
Right.
of Eden, of course. But the whole God is a God of all peoples. He didn't just he isn't only the God of the Jews. The creator of the universe created all the peoples, all the nations.
Yeah, well,
The
that's
thing
why I said that.
exactly.
Yeah.
The thing that he did was take us out of paganism through Abraham. Abram's parents, Abram lived in a land where it was only pagans. So he took Abram and he made a promise to him. I will make from you a nation, and from this nation all the nations of the world will be blessed. So it's through us. When we are a blessing, it's because we're obedient. When we're not, and we're going to see it in this portion, we become a curse. That we don't realize the importance of the nation of Israel, of our people, and our calling. I just watched the movie Defiance. I don't know if you've seen it. I highly recommend it to you. It's a true story about the Bilski brothers who lived in Belarus when the Nazis came in. It's called Defiance. It's with Daniel Craig. And there's one scene where they're praying because they'd been through so much. The one who was praying said, "Please don't choose us. Choose somebody else. Haven't we suffered enough?" But we haven't been chosen to suffer. We've been chosen because God had a role for us, a purpose for us. And we suffer because we're disobedient. And the world suffers because we're disobedient. Now, the next chapter. Every commandment. Does somebody want to read? Terry, would you like to read?
Okay. Every commandment that I command you this day, you shall keep to do, that you may live and multiply and come and possess the land that the Lord swore to your forefathers. And you shall remember the entire way on which the Lord, your God, led you these 40 years in the desert in order to afflict you, to test you, to know what is in your heart, whether you would keep his commandment or not. And he afflicted you and let you go hungry, and then fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your forefathers know, so that he would make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but rather by whatever comes forth from the mouth of the Lord does man live.
Now, this is really important. You see, sometimes we think, God is out there and he's just, we live our own lives. But here, it was really clear. He led us 40 years in the desert. He says to afflict it, to test us, to know what's in our heart. When we have trials, when we have things in our life that test our mettle, God is right there and he's watching. How are we going to obey his commandments or are we not? Let's say we're kids, young kids, and kids in school, they're affected by their friends. And a bunch of kids get together and they say, you know what? Let's go into the store down the street. Let's see if we can take something. And are you going to say it's a test? He wants to see what's in our heart. He already knows what's in our heart. We want to see whether we will keep his commandments. That's why it's so important for us to know what the commandments are. If there's anything we should memorize, it's what are the 10 commandments, so that we have a foundation. We have something, and you'll see a little later on what that Moses said. It was written by the finger of God. This is not just a man-made book. This was written by God's finger. Okay, we can continue.
Your clothing did not wear out upon you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. You shall know in your heart that just as a man chastises his son, so does the Lord your God chastise you. And you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God, to go in his ways and to fear him.
You see the over and over and over he's going to say, you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God. Fear him doesn't mean be afraid of him, means honor, revere him.
For the Lord your God bringing you to a good land, a land with brooks of water, fountains and depth, and that emerges in valleys and mountains, a land of wheat and barley, vines and figs and pomegranates, a land of oil-producing olives and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, you will lack nothing in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose mountains you will hew copper.
Hew means to cut the copper out of the mountains. Okay.
Thank you. And you will eat and be sated, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments, his ordinances, and his statutes, which I command you this day.
Again, here he's referring. Commandments are the mitzvot. Ordinance are the chukim. Statutes are the mishpatim. Remember, the first 3 of the 10 commandments are mitzvot. The second 2, the middle ones, which are honor your parents and keep the Shabbat, are chukim. And the last 5 are statutes. He's talking about the 10 commandments. He's not talking about the 613 that our sages say. He's not talking about any other books, not the Talmud, the 10 commandments.
To this day, lest you eat and be lest you eat and be sated and build good houses and dwell therein, and your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and gold increase, and all that you have increases, and your heart has grown haughty, and you forget the Lord your God, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, who led you through that great and awesome desert, in which were snakes, vipers, scorpions, and drought, where were there no water, who brought water to you out of solid rock, who fed you with manna in the desert, which your forefathers did not know, in order to afflict you and in order to test you, to benefit you in your end. And you will say to yourself, my strength and the might of my hand that has accumulated this wealth for me. But you must remember the Lord your God, for it is he that gives you strength to make wealth, in order to establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day.
These verses are really important, because when we succeed in life, when something is good, yes, we've done it, but who was behind us? Who was with us the whole way to provide for us? He's reminding us constantly, go back and remember.
Mm-hmm. And it will be, if you forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship them and prostrate yourself before them, I bear witness against you this day that you will surely perish. As the nations that the Lord destroys before you, so will you perish, since you will not obey the Lord your God.
You know, one of the things that people don't like to hear is that if you go back in time before the Second World War, before the Holocaust, our people were converting to Lutheranism in droves. They were leaving Judaism and they were becoming Christians so that they could serve, get out of the shtetls, go to universities, serve in important posts in the government. They were becoming wealthy. They wanted titles. They were becoming very, very wealthy. It will be if you forget the Lord your God and follow after other gods and worship them and prostrate yourself before them, I bear witness against you this day that you will surely perish. People don't want to admit that maybe we're partly to blame and that we need to go before the Lord and ask us to forgive us, because many of us have done things. We've all done things that have gone against what God wants from us. But God always knows our heart, and that's the most important thing. Oops. Jerry, would you like to read some? You're on mute.
Yes, unless you want to go in between the bunk, like, yeah, you can go, I can go, you can go, and Miriam can go, whatever you want.
Read what you want. We'll stop in between and then we'll.
Yeah, I find it hard to read and I'm very
Yeah.
hard with my breathing.
Okay.
Hear, O Israel, today you are crossing the Jordan to come into possess nations greater and stronger than you, great cities, fortified up to the heavens, a great and tall people, the children of Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard said, who can stand against the children of Anak?
Hold on before you continue. The Anakim were a nation in southern Canaan, which I think today is Jordan, and they said that, I don't know if you remember the portion where Moses chooses 10 men, 12 men from each tribe. They're just at the border, and 12 men go in to scout out the land, and they bring back grapes. He tells them, bring back a report. And one of the things that they said was that we saw Anakim there. They were giants. We will not be able to defeat them. And the only two who said, Caleb immediately said, it's not a problem. God is with us. We will defeat them. And Joshua joined in with him afterwards. And they were the only two to enter the land. So when we have giants in our lives, things that are overwhelming, and I've faced those things at times. I remember when I had a problem that was so big, I didn't know how it was going to get solved. And I remember just really praying and asking God to help. And almost out of the blue, somebody came into my life who was just able to handle it, to help me handle that. You just never know. Don't be afraid. Go ahead. God is with us. Okay, go ahead, Jer.
You shall know this day that it is the Lord your God who passes over before you as a consuming fire. He will destroy them, and he will subdue them before you, and you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord spoke to you. Do not say to yourself, when the Lord your God has repelled them from before you, saying, because of my righteousness, the Lord had brought me to possess the land, and that because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord drives them out from before you, not because of your righteousness or because of the honesty of your heart, do you come to possess their land. Because of the wickedness of these nations, the Lord your God drives them out from before you, and in order to establish the matter that the Lord swore to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Go ahead.
You should give me more screen, please. You shall know that because of your righteousness, the
No,
Lord.
not because of your righteousness.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, because I was going to repeat that. Look at it says 3 times. He says that. Read
Thank
it
you.
again.
Thank you. It's important. The little word is important there. How much
Exactly.
is busy? How much is important as the 2-letter if word? Okay.
Exactly.
No.
Okay. You shall know that not because of your righteousness, the Lord your God gives you this good land to possess it, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, do not forget how you angered the Lord your God in the desert from the day that you went out of the land of Egypt until you came to this place. You have been rebelling against the Lord. At Horeb, you angered the Lord, and the Lord was incensed with you to destroy you. When I ascended the mountain to receive the stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant which the Lord made for you, I remained on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water. And the Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God. And on them was inscribed according to all the words that the Lord spoke with you on the mountain from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly. You have to give me more. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that the Lord gave me 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. And the Lord said to me, arise, descend quickly from here, for your people whom you have brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have quickly deviated from the way which I commanded them. They have made for themselves a molten image. And the Lord spoke to me further, saying, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Leave me alone, and I will destroy them and obliterate their name from beneath the heavens. And I will make you into a nation mightier and more numerous than they. So I turned and came down from the mountain, and the mountain was burning with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were on my 2 hands. And I saw, and behold, you had sinned against the Lord your God. You had made yourselves a molten calf. You had deviated quickly from the way which the Lord had commanded you. So I grasped the 2 tablets, cast them out of my 2 hands, and shattered them before your eyes. And I fell down before the Lord as before. 40 days and 40 nights I neither ate bread nor drank water, because of all your sins you had committed by doing evil in the eyes of the Lord to anger him. For I was frightened of the wrath and the fury that the Lord was angry with you to destroy you. And the Lord hearkened to me also at that time. And with Aaron, the Lord was very furious to destroy him. So I prayed also for Aaron at that time. And I took your sin, the calf, which you had made, and I burned it with fire, and I crushed it, grinding it well until it was fine dust. And I cast its dust into the brook that descends from the mountain. And at Taberah, and at Massah, and at Kivrat Hata'avah, you provoked the Lord to anger. And when the Lord sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land I have given you, you defied the word of the Lord your God, and you did not believe him, nor did you obey him. You have been rebelling against the Lord since the day I became acquainted with you. So I fell down before the Lord for 40 days and 40 nights that I had fallen down, because the Lord had said to destroy you. And I prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord God, do not destroy your people and your inheritance, which you have redeemed in your greatness, and which you have brought out of the land, out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, do not turn to the stubbornness of this people, to their wickedness or to their sin, lest the people of the land from which you brought us out will say, because of the Lord's inability to bring them to the land about which he spoke to them, and because of his hatred towards them, he has brought them out to slay them in the desert. But they are your people and your inheritance, which you brought out with your great strength and with your outstretched arm.
Powerful, powerful chapter. I mean, really, the words speak for themselves. I don't think we need anybody to interpret what he's saying. And how do we relate to that today, to what we're seeing here? Are we still being rebellious against the Lord? If we take a look at the world and some of the things that they're doing today,
I guess sometimes it seems so simple to talk about things like this. And you're right, the words are right there, and it is so simple. But I guess it's like, when you get settled in your sin, or settled in your disobedience, or whatever it is in your life, it becomes hard to see how simple and things are. Sometimes you hear of like people who like have led like lives of selfishness and this and that, and then they want, you hear like not that there's anything wrong with money in what I'm going to say, but let's say people who have tons and tons of money but live a lifestyle also that's really decadent. And then I've heard stories of somebody, let's say a head of a corporation or whatever, who's just decided they're going to be a gardener. They don't want to live that life anymore. But sometimes all these things seem so simple, that God just wants obedience, and it sounds so simple, but it's the truth.
but how often, when I went into a synagogue, or even Christians going into a church, or whatever religions, how often have you heard leaders talk about this? We talk about social issues. We talk about, trying to make us feel good. This isn't trying to make us feel good. This is trying to face who we are, to tell us, this is who you are. Get with the program. You're not perfect. You can change. You can do better. And at that
it
time,
also says how God is a loving God. So we're not talking about just a mean taskmaster in the sky,
exactly. And at that time the Lord said to me, hew for yourself 2 stone tablets, like the first ones, and come up to me onto the mountain, and make for yourself a wooden ark. And I shall inscribe on the tablets the words that were upon the first tablets, which you shattered, and you shall place them into the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, and I hewed 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I ascended the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. And he inscribed on the tablets, like the first writing, in case there's any doubt. God wrote the tablets like the first, the 10 commandments, which the Lord had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them to me. There are millions of people who heard him, and here God was writing down what they heard. And I turned and came down the mountain and placed the tablets in the ark which I had made, and there they were, as the Lord had commanded me. The children of Israel journeyed from the wells of Bnei Yakan to Moserah. There Aaron died, and there he was buried, and Eleazar his son served as Kohen in his stead. From there they journeyed to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Yotvath, a land of streams of water. At that time the Lord separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord to serve him, and to bless in his name to this day. So the Levites had a very specific task, to serve God and to bless him before our people to this very day. so that Levi have no portion of or inheritance with his brothers, for the Lord is his inheritance, as the Lord your God spoke to him. And I remained on the mountain like the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. And the Lord hearkened to me at that time. The Lord did not wish to destroy you. And the Lord said to me, Arise, go to lead the travels before the people, so that they may come and possess the land I promised their forefathers to give them. And now, Israel, here, look how important this is. What does the Lord your God ask of you? Only to fear him, to fear the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, to love him, and to worship the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. To keep the commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day for your good. We don't keep them for him, we keep them for us. Behold, to the Lord your God belongs the heavens and the heavens of heavens, the earth and all that is on it. Only your forefathers the Lord desired to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you out of all peoples, as it is this day. We sitting here today are chosen. Now it says here, you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart. Obviously, it's an allegory, a picture. It's not literal. He wants our hearts to be opened. Therefore, be no more stiff-necked. Don't be stubborn. Don't cling to what we think we know is right or because someone else told us. Go to the source. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, who will show no favor, nor will he take a bribe. We can't bribe God. He executes the judgment of the orphan and the widow, and he loves the stranger. To him, they're not the way we say goyim, shikses, to give him bread and clothing. You shall love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall fear the Lord your God, worship him, cling to him, swear by his name. He is your praise, and he is your God, who did these great and awesome things for you, which your eyes have seen. With 70 souls, your forefathers descended to Egypt. That's when Jacob went down to Egypt when Joseph was there. And now the Lord your God has made you as the stars of heaven in abundance. We started out with 70 people, and now we're like the stars in the heavens. Therefore, again, you shall love the Lord your God. Keep his charge, keep his statutes, keep his ordinances, keep his commandments all the days. And you shall know this day that I speak not with your children who did not know. Now remember, he's speaking to them. And who did not see the chastisement of the Lord, because they didn't know, they didn't see what God did, your God, his greatness and his mighty hand and his outstretched arms. And again, he's referring to Egypt, his signs and his deeds, which he performed in the midst of Egypt to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his entire land, and what he did to the army of Egypt, to its steeds, its horses, and its chariots. And he caused the waters of the Red Sea to inundate them when they pursued you. And the Lord destroyed them to this day. And what he did for you in the desert until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Datan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the sons of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and their tents, and all their possessions at their feet in the midst of Israel. But your eyes, which have seen all the great work of the Lord, which he did. Again, therefore, keep all my commandments that I command you this day, in order that you may be strong and come and possess the land to which you are crossing, to possess it, and in order that you may prolong your days on the land that the Lord swore to your forefathers, to give them and to their seed a land flowing with milk and honey, chalav v'davash. For the land to which you are coming is not like the land of Egypt, out of which you came, where you sowed your seed and which you watered by foot like a vegetable garden. But this land to which you pass to possess is a land of mountains and valleys and absorbs water from the rains of heaven. In other words, there weren't a lot of rivers like they had the Great Nile in Egypt. Here the land was like a desert that absorbed the waters, a land the Lord your God looks after. The eyes of the Lord your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And it will be, if you obey my commandments that I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, not half-hearted, all heart, all your soul. I will give the rain of your land at its time, the early rain and the latter rain, and you will gather in your grain and your wine and your oil. And I will give grass in your field for your livestock, and you will eat and be satisfied. So what he's saying is that the land itself is not going to take care of you. He will provide the rains. He will take care of us. We always had to depend on him. But beware, lest your heart be misled, and you turn away and worship strange gods, and prostrate yourselves before them. The wrath of the Lord will be kindled against you, and he will close off the heavens, and there will be no rain, and the ground will not give its produce, and you will perish quickly from the land, the good land that the Lord gives you. And you shall set these words of mine upon your heart, upon your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be ornaments between your eyes. This is where we get the tefillim. Bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as ornaments between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your sons, and to speak with them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. And you shall inscribe them upon the doorpost of your house and upon your gates. That's why we put the Shema on inside our mezuzot, in order that your days may increase and the days of your children on the land which the Lord swore to your forefathers to give them as the days of heaven above the earth. For if you keep all these commandments which I command you to do, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to cleave to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will possess nations greater and stronger than you. Every place upon which the sole of your feet will tread will be yours, from the desert and the Lebanon, from the river, the great river, the Euphrates, until the western sea will be your boundary. No man will stand up before you. The Lord your God will cast the fear of you and the dread of you on all the land upon which you tread, as he spoke to you. And that's the end of this portion.
Really, really beautiful.
Can you put your picture on, Miriam, or you still want to stay in the black?
Yeah, are you finished? Peggy, can I see the next two lines that for next time? I'd like to see that, the next two lines, because it's a good follow-up. Like
Yes, because the next ones are going to be re'eh.
Yeah. I just went, where is it? Behold, I said before, that's important, continuing, the blessing that you are, and the Lord, which God was on you today.
Exactly, that's next week.
Yeah, I know, but it's a good continuum,
Well, whenever I read, what I try to do is go back to see the verses just before, because remember when our Torah was written, there were no chapters, there were no numbers, there were no commas, no periods, no verses. Our rabbis spent years putting together the Masoretic text with all the nikudot and all the, so that it was a little easier for us to handle. And they're the ones who divided up the parshas, so that at the time of the Romans, we used to, when Yeshua was here in Israel, it was read in a 3-year period. Now we read it in a 1-year period. So the readings are a little different than 2,000 years ago. But it's extremely important for us to read it, simply to read it. We don't have to be great scholars to know what God wants from us. And the sad thing is that our leaders, those who are supposed to shepherd their flocks, are not doing their jobs, are not warning us. Instead, they're putting heavy burdens, heavy rules and regulations that not even they're able to keep. And it gets to a point where, the world looks at the religious leaders and sees what hypocrites so many of them are, and they say, ugh, I'm not interested in your God. But when we obey God and we obey His commandments, and because we're being obedient, there's something that happens on a spiritual level. There's a growth that takes place within us. There's a sense of shalom, a sense of peace, that we know that somebody so great is always with us, that really we don't have to be afraid, even when we go through hard times, because He doesn't promise to make everything hunky-dory. He didn't bring us across the Red Sea on a magic carpet. He made us trudge along. Even though He's parted the Red Sea, we had to take our carts and our children and the wagons and go through on that land. And it wasn't easy. But He kept the enemy away with fire so they couldn't get near us. These are pictures for us to know in our own lives, that when we have a problem that's just too big for us, He is there. And if we go to Him, He will help us solve it. He promises that, and it's all, I cannot tell you how many stories how many times that has happened to me. I'm overwhelmed when I think about them. I'm working on a book where I'm writing as many as down as I can think of, because of how great our God is. And it's not because I'm so good or I'm perfect or I keep things so perfectly, because I'm far from it. I struggle every single day. But I have, in engineering, they call it architecture, they call it a plumb line. A plumb line is the line that shows them exactly how a building has to be built according to this plumb line, so that it will be straight. So the 10 Commandments are our plumb line, so that when we have to make decisions, we use that as our basis, and then we know we have a better idea of how to make a decision. Of course, it's always wise to have people around us who are honest, who are also God-fearing, God-loving. And so when we ask for advice, we can make the right decisions. Because when we make decisions without asking advice, it's very often we can make wrong decisions. And the beauty of the Torah, the beauty of these stories of our people, is that we can see what they did. And that's why God keeps saying, go back, look at what happened in Egypt. Look at what I did back then. I'm doing the same thing for you today. So that's the beauty of this book, the beauty of that in our life. And I pray every day, God, show us how to get this out, because the world is a mess. It's a big mess right now. There are heat waves that are unprecedented all over the world. Europe, in the southern states, fires, places are burning. And it's not global warming. We are being disobedient to the God who created this planet. We are not taking care of what he's given us to take care of. That's how I see it.
It's a very beautiful portion.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, it
It's like says
Yeah.
everything.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
You know,
so-
and things are, as we always say, it's like a process. If you don't see, wow, God did this, God did that, sometimes things are more subtle, or you're a type of person like me who's a bit, hard-headed, and I'm not, I don't, I'm just different,
No, you're not. Look what he said. We're a stiff-necked people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I
I am.
mean is it's a journey. So like not to think that, like to me, the absolute, let's say, miracle is just to believe in God, just that, just the idea that to know and accept that there's a being, however you see that. And even in the midst of doubts, even believers have doubts, but through that journey, God knows our heart. And he says that if you search for me, it won't be hard to find me. So if it sounds daunting, sometimes it sounds, oh, just obey me. That's the hardest thing in the world, especially for certain people. And not to be obedience to the commandments necessarily, like not to steal, etc. But the first one, to love God with all your soul and might. So it's not something, where's the passage we just read the last week, where it's not so far from you that you can't, God is not, it's not so hard that it can't be done, because really we're in partnership with God. Like this is a partnership. And if you say to God, like I've said, I want to walk with you. I don't always know what that means, but I want that. Doesn't mean all of a sudden, everything's perfect, and now I have fields and crops or whatever it means in this day and age. But yes, it changes your life. But it's a process.
Right. And sometimes when things go really bad, and people will swear at God, how did you let this happen to me? What do you say to that? In this portion, he says, I test you so that I know your heart. He's not going to make it easy on us. When things get too easy, we become too soft. And he
But
wants us
that's
to.
also because I believe when we really initially disobeyed God, like I don't believe we would have those testings. I think this is because of our disobedience.
But he said it in this portion.
Yeah,
I
okay.
tested you.
Yes, exactly. But it's because it's like, then you could say, why did so and so lose their little baby? Like it sounds, it isn't like that. Oh, I'm testing you, I'm taking away your baby. That makes God look like an evil taskmaster. I think what he means is that he wants us to turn to him and walk with him. And it's not an evil person saying, I'm going to see what your heart really is.
No, that's true.
I'm just saying,
Yes.
sometimes things could look like that.
Yes,
It's not what it is,
that's true.
you know.
Jerry, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I like to. I like that. I like to. I want to wait for. Yeah. Just first of all. First of all, right at the beginning, we have that statement which has been borrowed by many places, but before that, these chapters, Deuteronomy, the previous ones and this ones are very, very powerful, as you mentioned. They're really something. And the first thing I noticed at the beginning of this project, I said, which has been borrowed by others, like man does not live by bread alone. That saying has been borrowed by other people, and
Yeah, that's for sure.
and you said that's very powerful, as you said, and when we're in when we're in harsh times, or yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. I think that just fits right in over here. And you have from strength to strength, Terry, like Peggy says, she's going from perfect to perfect. In her perfection, she's perfect even in her perfection. Like at the end of the chapters, is from strength to strength. What else did the plumb line? That's nice. And Miriam, not to leave you undone, you said about your head. You have a nice head today, eh? Your hairdo is really.
I'm a palm tree, as our rabbi used to say.
Pardon?
I'm a palm tree, as our rabbi used to call me.
You must have gone to your favorite hairdresser, eh? That's right.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so the other thing is, the other thing he said is going to walk with you, and I think Peggy has something like that. When that poem, when you're walking, and then there's two footprints, and one footprint, and Peggy has told us that so often. When there's one footprint is when he carries us. But I have a book also. A chiropractor once gave me this book a long, long while ago, probably 1970 or so. It says God will work with you, but not for you. But I don't know if that's you can't take that 100% literally. But what God provides is not necessarily. He provides opportunities, and we have to come up to the opportunity. So Peggy, again, you're getting, as far as I'm concerned, you're going from perfect to perfect, and you're getting more perfect.
Ask those who hang around with me, and they'll tell you how perfect I am.
Well, I want to tell you something, Peggy. True story. A couple of things happened to me this year, and one day I'll tell you true things. I had some I don't want to use, we'll say, not positive things, and I thank God. I'm saying it 3 times because I'm not sure how I overturned them. I did something, instead of addressing that not positive, I did something else, and it sort of led me to something else. Okay. And one day I might tell you about it.
And the outcome?
Well, it's the outcome. It led to the non-positive things. As far as I'm concerned, we don't want to say it's leading to positive. And there was a saying once that you have to extract the good from some not good. Sometimes, you have to pull it out of somewhere. I mean, we're not studying that much Kabbalism and stuff like that, but in that Kabbalism, we have to build up certain stuff that went down, because if we did not have not life, then we wouldn't have life. There'd be no definition of that. So if you didn't have a not good, you wouldn't be able to say what is good.
Exactly. That's what I said in my message last week. I don't know if you heard it on last Shabbat. I sent it to you, but it's worth to listen to. And what you quoted before was actually Rabbi Yeshua in the sermon that he gave on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount. Don't worry about what you eat, what you dress, what you'll wear, because your heavenly Father knows man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth out of the mouth of God. He was quoting the Torah, which he was always doing, always trying to get people to come back to the Torah, to the simple commandments. That was his role, and that was one of the major purpose for his existence. I guess what we need to do is find the purpose of our lives. God has given us a community that we live in, and they watch us. They watch how we behave. And that's why the commandments are so important for us, because the people around can see when we're being hypocrites, when we may say one thing and do another. My father used to say that. Don't do what I do, do what I say. Doesn't work. You have to say and do. So thank you again, everyone, for this wonderful evening. I love the
Thank you. It
Torah.
was really
It
good.
was so nice to read it. Yes.
Thank you. Jerry, are you ready to do the Yivarechecha?
I'll do it. You want to proceed that. When you do something, you usually bless the Lord for something like before you. I'm not sure if you do it that the rabbis you bless the food before you eat it, or I'm not sure how much you'd call that rabbinic, Peggy, or
Yeah, it's rabbinic. Well, the Christians pray before. Jews, we pray, we thank God after because we're never sure what we're going to get. So
well,
we do the Birkat Hamazon after we eat.
well, well, it's also anyhow. So I'm just going to proceed this year. Like, blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has commanded the Kohanim and us to bless all the people of Israel and each other with the following threefold blessing. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Yoer Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha, Yisor Adonai panav elecha, v'yosem lacha shalom. And v'sami et al b'nei Yisrael ve'ani arvorchem. And Peggy, I think you'd like to translate that in English.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom, his peace. So shall they put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. So may we be blessed. Have a blessed night. Sleep well, everybody. Have a blessed week until Shabbat, and then we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And until next week, God willing, when we look at the portion called Re'eh. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Peggy. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Terry, Jerry,
Bye-bye.
Terry and Jerry and Perry. No.
Perry, you're the only one, Miriam, with an
Yeah, good seniors. Good night, seniors. Good night,
Good
seniors.
night, Irene.
Merrily we roll along, roll along, roll along.
So long.
Da-da-da.
Bye-bye.
Good. Keep singing. We need that.
Oh, yes.